Today we're going to talk about how you can overcome an anxious attachment style, specifically relating to a breakup. Now, my team and I have noticed that extreme moments of trauma as experienced during a breakup tend to be a pretty basic trigger point for the anxious individual to become, more anxious. So the main goal of this video is to give you a basic understanding on what needs to be done for you to have a more secure attachment style. In all, I'd like to cover the following things. I want to define what the anxious attachment style is, and by the end, I want to introduce the concept of secure attachment gravity and the idea that healthy relationships beget healthy attachment styles. So let's just jump right in and begin. There are two types of attachment style categories. There are the secure attachment styles and the insecure attachment styles. Now, within the insecure attachment categories, there are three subsets of insecure attachments. You have anxious attachments, avoidant attachments, and fearful attachments. Now, I've come up with many different graphics and explainer videos and explainer articles detailing out all of the different core attachment styles. Well, someone with an anxious attachment styles care deeply about relationships, so much so that they often wrap their whole identity up into their relationships, making them more prone to the following behaviors. They're more prone to jealousy, putting up with unacceptable behaviors from partners, settling, being overly helpful in relationships, taking on the majority of blame, guilt, etc. when the relationship ultimately fails. They will struggle with self-esteem. Interestingly, we've also correlated a lot of the breakup bad behaviors to this type of attachment style as well. In fact, after a breakup, an anxious attachment style is more prone to Facebook stalking, begging for an ex back, showing up the ex's house unannounced, trying Hail Mary, get your ex back attempts, obsessing over an ex. Officially, the anxious attachment style is defined as an attachment style in which a person experiences anxiety in their relationships with significant others in their lives. It stems from attachment theory, which argues that childhood experiences can affect our relationships later in life. So the big question for many of our clients is, how do they overcome this anxious attachment style? Well, I think the first step is by understanding that healthy relationships beget healthy attachment styles. What is the major difference between a secure attachment style and an anxious one? I think looking at how they process breakups can be illuminating. So for example, after a breakup, an anxious person will obsess about what they did wrong, even if they didn't do anything wrong. They'll immediately try to fix a relationship. They'll beg for their ex back. They'll stop eating. They'll have these negative thoughts that the world is over. Well, that's an anxious attachment style thought pattern. On the other hand, a secure person has a secure habit, or they have a bunch of secure habits embedded within their behavior. So they talk to their loved ones about what they're feeling. They'll write down what they think and feel. They'll try meditation or therapy. They'll exercise to relieve stress and increase endorphins. They practice being aware of their thoughts when they're emotional. They'll remove themselves from an emotional situation if it's becoming uncontrollable. And the thing you need to understand about attachment styles is that if you want to change your anxious attachment style to being more secure, it's not like you can simply make a choice to do that. Attachment styles are formed in relationships. They're maintained in relationships and reformed in relationships. So one does not change their attachment style on their own. You can engage in self-care and work on redirecting energy back into yourself. More on that in a minute. But you really need to work on introspection and understanding your attachment style, tendencies, and injuries. Healthy relationships beget secure attachment. So essentially, the argument here is the best way to shift your anxious attachment style to being more secure is to learn from another who has a secure attachment. Start surrounding yourself with people who have secure attachments. This is a concept you'll often see me talking about on my website, and I call it secure attachment gravity. So if an insecure attachment gets partnered with a secure attachment, then that secure attachment can actually act as a gravity component and begin to lead by example. Usually this is how an anxious person can become more secure. You're familiar with tug of war, right? Well, anytime a new relationship is formed with someone, a kind of tug of war occurs with regards to an attachment style. So I'm going to use an example. For a moment, let's pretend that you have an anxious attachment style and I have a secure one. The two of us decide to date. From an attachment perspective, the tug of war begins and only one person can win. So number one, either my secure tendencies can win out and your anxious tendencies can slowly but surely shift to becoming more secure. You'll learn by my example. Or your anxious tendencies can win out and my secure tendencies can slowly become more so insecure. So gravity can work in both ways. If you partner a secure person up with an anxious person, either that secure person will help shift the anxious person to being more secure, or the secure person will just realize, I don't want to be with an anxious person and leave. Or the anxious person, if the secure person really deeply loves the anxious person, will wear off on the secure person and their secure attachment will slowly shift towards being more insecure, more anxious. This is often why you see people change in relationships. It's because one attachment style is dominating the other person. But for our purposes, this is super helpful because weirdly, the best place to start, quote unquote, improving your anxious tendencies is by focusing on your sphere of influence. So the sphere of influence is kind of a big deal when it comes to shifting your attachment style. Last week, I wrote an article called What to Do with Your Life After a Breakup, and I make a case that everyone has the right to be selfish when it comes to the people they surround themselves with. In fact, I cited a line from Billions, which is kind of ironic because the character I cited it from is definitely not secure, but I believe there is a lot of truth to the line.
And I don't hold on to a loser. The moment it doesn't feel right, I let it go, get away from it.
The line is, I don't hold on to a loser. The moment it doesn't feel right, I let it go and get away from it. I think all of us can stand to be a little bit more selfish about the people we surround ourselves with. More on this in a minute. First things first, the sphere of influence. What is it? Simply put, the sphere of influence is an idea revolving around the people you surround yourself with. People tend to be swayed by the opinions of their sphere of influence, and it makes actually a huge difference we're finding in the X-Back scene, but that's neither here nor there. So think of it like this. You are a person and you have surrounded yourself with individuals. Usually, or generally speaking, your intimate relationships are the people that are closest to you. They're the people whose opinions you care about deeply. Then you have close relationships. You also care about these people. Then you have casual relationships. People are not going to sway the way you look at the world or think of the world. Distant acquaintances are not going to sway the way you look at the world or think of the world. So what we're really talking about here is taking a good, hard, long look at your personal sphere of influence, your intimate relationships, your close relationships, and see, are they up to the task of improving your attachment style? All right, so my argument is really simple. I think everyone who has an anxious attachment style needs to start rounding their sphere of influence out with secure individuals. Harkening back to my Billions argument, I don't hold on to a loser. The moment it doesn't feel right, I let it go and get away from it. You deserve the right to be methodical about your life. You don't have to kick them out and be rude like, hey, I'm going to cut you out. I'm going to ghost you. So my rule is simple. If you aren't adding anything to benefit my personal life, then I don't want you around. Now, not to seem too selfish, that's not what friendship or companionship is. You have to give them something in return. I want to talk about another thing I've noticed. When it comes to friendships, there are three types of people. There are the givers, there are the takers, and then there are the equalizers. The givers give too much of themselves in relationships. Oftentimes, you'll find givers are anxious individuals. The takers take too much for themselves in relationships. Oftentimes, these are the avoidant individuals. The equalizers both give and take in relationships, creating fairness. They're more secure.